Hi, it's Jane. Still knitting on the hat. I'm working to finish it, hoping to get it finished by late this evening, if not this afternoon. Drinking my water. I hope you're drinking your water. It's way hot out there. It's 93 degrees. Oh, that's so good. That mix is banana and ocean water. And let me tell you, that is delicious. I was kind of hoping, supposedly it was supposed to be a little bit cooler today, so I was hoping to be able to go out and cut some of that bamboo. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Well, so maybe I'll just go to bed early and get up around 5:30 and get out there. Well, it's still cool enough to get it done. But yeah, what a mess it is out there. I'd stopped to get gas, and the credit card reader was not malfunctioning. Pretty sure that's because of the heat. Lots of times computers don't do well in the heat, so lots of times you'll see that it'll decline your card saying chip failure or something like that, and it's actually because the machine is too hot where it's at. So that's okay. I'll just wait until morning to get my gas. They suggest you do it early morning anyway because you don't have a loss of gas as you're pumping due to the heat. Mine was just, I was in the area, thought I would just stop and do it. So there's that, right? But, yeah, crazy days. Cats were laying around the house, acting like it's sweltering in the house. It's not. It's not a bad temperature. It's okay. I have it set right now at 73. 75 is a bit too high for me. 74 I can deal with. 73 is generally what I'm most comfortable at. So, keep it at that setting most of the time. During the winter, I keep it at 72. So, that seems to help with the electric bill, keeping it nice and on a lower end there. Because I hate when it goes high. I mean, there's no excuse for those kind of things. And I look at it like this, ever since they deregulated the electric costs, it seems like they've gone up instead of going down. So, whatever. What are you going to do? You can't fight all this kind of stuff, so just have to deal with it. Oh. I was trying to decide what my next project was going to be. And to be honest, I have a diamond painting that I'd started with, with the cat, the black cat. I haven't worked on it in months, so I think my next project to finish is actually going to be the diamond painting. At least that's what I have in mind. That's the goal. I'd noticed, I'd seen on Facebook there was a story about the road in Florida buckling because of the heat. And we just recently had a story here that on the interstate, there's an area that has developed a bump because of the heat. And I do find that interesting. And mainly because in Pennsylvania, for most of the roads have always been concrete roads. But they just recently started paving over a lot of them. So I'm not sure if that's what causes it, because at a certain temperature the pavement will melt. You know, that's asphalt. Or as they call it here, when I say asphalt roads, they look at me like they have no clue. They call them macadam here. So, what do they call it in your area? Asphalt roads or macadam? Or do you have some other term that it's called? That's interesting to see that the roads do that. Seems like our world is getting a little crazier and crazier. Not sure how people are going to fix this world if they can't figure out how to stop being, one, so dramatic and so crazy, right? Kind of have to laugh that the you see all these people on the left having a hissy fit about the whole thing with Donald Trump, you know, providing airstrikes, those kind of things, that he can't do that, he can't declare war. He didn't declare war, people. He did something that the Constitution gives him the power to do. And I mean, you know, you're going to impeach him for something that Reagan did, Bush did, Clinton did, Baby Bush, Obama, Biden. They all had airstrikes where they hit several different countries that they didn't declare war. And the left didn't make a big stink about that, which makes me wonder if the only reason you're doing that is because Trump did it. And quite frankly, your temper tantrum is getting old. You know? Might be different if you had some ideas on how to fix things in our country. You know? Then I was reading the news this morning that several Iranian illegals were arrested that slipped in during Biden's era. And you know, it always goes back to that one video where it looks like it was probably an Syrian man asking if we knew who he was. And people said no. And he said, "You're stupid if you don't know who I am, but soon you'll know my name." You know, and then you have all the people crying out about the sleeper cells. Well, I think sleeper cells have been here for years, if not than the last couple of years. we have seen the Biden administration basically have a wide open border policy and brought in a lot of unknown actors, people that you don't know where they're from, whether they're up to no good or what. Weren't vetted, just let them in. Disappear into the fabric of America. So I don't know what you expect. And then we have a lot of Congress leaders, supposedly U.S. congressmen and women, who you think would be fighting for the American people, but they have put out there, quite frankly, that their allegiance is to Somalia or to whatever country they came from. Well, if your allegiance is to there, why don't you go back there and do what you're doing? Fight for those people. I think once you come to America, if you're not willing to become an American, assimilate into American morals, values, patriotism, yet you want to take from the American people so that you can send it back home to your people in your country. I don't know. Something seems odd there. And I get this whole thing about people coming here for a better life. All right, fine. Come here, work here, take care of business, pay your taxes. Don't live off the American people. But I think that's something I believe in for everyone. You shouldn't be living off of other people if you can avoid it. Contribute to society, volunteer, help take care of others. Those kind of things. But don't come here, hide in the shadows, do a bunch of illegal things, and expect people to be protective of you. And I'm not sure what is going on with the Democrat Party. They used to be very much so about the American people, American values, and, they always used to say they're for the poor. That hasn't been so for years. And if you just look at some of the things that they propose when they're in office, it does not help a lot of the poor. Generally, it helps the upper class that they decry all the time. So, and I think sometimes they're just out of touch with what's going on in America. But they, instead of bringing solutions to the table to work together, bipartisan, you got to have them versus us, and they're all wrong, but you don't bring any fresh new ideas to the table either. So, And to be honest, it seems like the Democrat Party is faltering. Like they're falling apart. They're in total chaos. So I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy answer. And then you have New York City, with this fellow, the Muslim from Africa, that's running for mayor. And from some of the things I've heard him talk about, you're going to turn New York City into a third world country? I mean, kind of sounds like what he's advocating for. But I don't think that you need to worry about the, he's running on this anti-Trump campaign. And I would think people, instead of listening to anti-Trump BS, that you'd be looking to see what he's going to do for the people of your community. So, I don't know, folks. Seems kind of crazy. Today at Christian Women, I was kind of laughing because we were talking about things that are going on around, in our local areas, different ones of us. And I'd made a comment about, I've got these robins, and the fledglings have fledged off. They're flying off, but they keep coming back to the nest. And that's odd. That's never happened before. And, I'm ready to, I'd knock the nest down once the fledglings have left. But with them coming back to the nest, there's a part of me that I may just have to evict them. Knock the nest off and let them figure it out. And my one neighbor said, well, I guess now even the birds are like our youngins. Today they expect to stay at home and feed off of us for the rest of their lives. And I just kind of looked at her, and then I started laughing. Because I thought, maybe that's true. Maybe they've caught on to the way human beings are. So I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And who knows why they keep coming back. I just cannot figure that out. I just know I'm ready for them to fly the coop so I can get rid of that nest up there. Because any of you that have had nests that close, you know what kind of friendly things they leave behind. It's messy. So, like to get that cleaned up and gone from the front. Although everyone that delivers packages here, whether it's Amazon or FedEx or UPS, loves the fact that there's birds right there. They always wind up not only taking a picture of the item they left at the doorstep, but they usually wind up taking pictures of the birds in the nest. So, just think that's kind of cute. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on around here. Not a whole lot. Like I said, would like to get out there and try to finish the one section that's at least in the front of the house. Still have a lot to go around the side of the house and the back of the house. And one of my friends and I were talking about the whole issue with the, the bamboo, because she fights it at her place too, and she said she's equally mad that those deer won't eat it. She said they'll come up and eat her hostas, but they leave the bamboo alone. I said, yeah, I find that annoying. But not a whole lot we can do about it. Just have to deal with it. I have started decreasing on this hat, and I think I have to move to my double pointed needles. This next round, I'm doing the knit round before, maybe one more round before I have to decrease. Get to those needles. I don't know, we'll see. I have a friend who does not like knitting in the round at all. She was talking to me about she just likes to do straight knitting. I said, yeah, but there's one thing that I like once I, do knitting in the round is I don't care for having to purl every other row. I do enjoy the fact that once you get it on the needles and you're doing just a knit piece, you can do knit all the way around. And she was like, I don't understand how that works. I said, well, it's because you're not changing direction. But I'm like, okay, folks, you do you. I'm going to continue to do me. I'll make these little hats. You don't worry about it. I went to go look at videos to reorient myself to the adding machine. Isn't it funny how when you haven't done something for so long that you need to go back and revisit it to relearn it? So I'm finding that I forgot a lot of things when it comes to the adding machine. So, but oh well. At least there's YouTube to guide us. That is one thing that I think is interesting. YouTube can help you with a whole lot of things. My son uses YouTube all the time when he's doing car repairs at his home. So, and I can say I've done that too. I've changed air filters and headlamps and all kinds of stuff, that I can reach, that I can do without having to go and take it to a mechanic shop to do. So, yeah, it's a great tool to have in your back pocket. We, at the Christian Women's luncheon, they had a wonderful dessert. And it was a cheesecake. And on top of the cheesecake had like a whipped topping. And then it also had blueberries and cut strawberries. It was very good. Just, fresh fruit on top. It was very nice dessert. Very yummy too. I have a question for some of you. In the summer, do you tend to work on projects that are smaller projects like hats, small bags, amigurumi, those kind of things because of the heat, or does it matter to you what size project that you're making? I know that when I go out to the concerts, I usually take a smaller project with me, something that is easy to carry, compact, and generally that's the reason that I do smaller projects out there. But I had someone say to me today, um, because generally while I'm there manning the name badge desk, if you will, if the reason I chose hats to do while I was sitting there instead of like the one day I was working on my sweater is because now it's getting hotter, and because I'm right there by the front door, when people come in, you get that little blast of the heat from the outside, or what? And I was like, I don't know that that makes difference. It may subconsciously, but I don't think so. I think the main thing that I wanted to do is get this hat off the needles so I can move on to something else. So I don't know. I'm curious if you've noticed that that's a pattern that you do throughout the year. I mean, I don't think, because I'm getting ready to start an Afghan, I don't think that that's, because of the heat. That's just because I've got all that yarn and I thought, well, that'll make a nice man's Afghan. So maybe I'll just do that with the yarn. I don't know. And generally it doesn't make a bit of difference to me. Because if I'm too hot, I'm either going to put a fan on me or I'm going to turn the AC down a little bit. So there's that. I was invited to a birthday party for someone that I really don't know them very well. I mean, they're more of just an acquaintance. And yes, you're seeing me take off the stitch marker I have at the beginning of the round. I'm going to place a progress keeper right there so I know that's where the round ends for further decreases. I do that because many times when I am working with the double pointed needles, it makes it a little bit easier to pick those stitches up. And you can't use one of these. These are those little bitty round rings. You can't really keep them on the double pointed easily unless you have a stitch in between, which doesn't always work. So yeah, that's what I kind of do in between. And I have no rhyme or reason to how many stitches I put on. I just usually do a couple in the first and a few more rows. And that's just my preferred method of working in the round with the double pointed needles. I had a friend pick up my work and was asking me what these needles were. And I said, I do not know if these are Addies or if they are another brand. Now that I've gotten them off of there, I'm pretty sure they're another brand. But she was telling me that she uses the Addy Clicks and she really likes those. Now I do know that I don't have any Addy Clicks. I've looked at them before and thought about getting them, but just haven't. A lot of my knitting needles are Addies. I have a couple that are Chow Goo. They're okay. I don't mind using them. But my preferred are my Addy brand. And I like that because what I've found from what I've seen in some of the local yarn stores in the past is you don't always get a choice of whether you get like this is a blunt end. Oh, come on, focus on it. Focus on the needle. See if I can get it to focus on the needle. This is kind of a blunt end, and I prefer that when I'm knitting hats, so I'm not poking my little fingers to death. It's just, something that I prefer. Because I know lots of times you get these, like when I pick up the clovers, they're very pointed. So they kind of poke into your fingers, and I'm kind of grumpy. I don't like that. I don't want to see that happening. So, yep, it's kind of what I do. Very particular about my needles. Are you guys particular about the knitting needles or crochet hooks that you use? Do you prefer one brand over another? I do know that when it comes to my crochet hooks, there are 3 brands that I absolutely love, and I use them the most. And that would be my Etimo or Tulips, basically the same company. Tulip hooks, those are my absolute favorite, followed by my clovers, and then followed by, also like the Amore hooks as well too. I used to only use Boy. Don't really like Susan Bates. Have used them before. They're okay. It's just not something, they're just not my preferred hook. So do you guys have a favorite hook that you use, you prefer brand? I have not picked up any of the Prim brand. I just, I look at them and I'm like, I don't know. Should I really try another different hook? And then there's a part of me that goes, why? I'm satisfied with the hooks that I have. Why don't I just keep using those hooks? I don't have to have all the stuff. It used to be I, wanted to try all the different brands. And then once I got the Edamos tulip, I was like, I'm done looking. Because those are my go-tos, first of all. Doesn't matter what's going on, those are my go-tos. And then, of course, the next are clover. But, yeah, those are my generally preferred brands. Now, double-pointed needles, I have often used the clovers for that. And the only exception is when I got these, I fell in love with these, and I wouldn't mind having a whole set. These are the carbons, and I love these. I love the feel of them. I love the weight of them. But, they've been kind of pricey, so I don't have a complete knitting set of those and double pointed, although I would like to someday when I'm independently wealthy. But, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And the only other question I have is, if you are loyal to a certain brand, why? Is it because of the brand name, or is it something else that draws your attention to it, or you're the reason that you like it? I know there are a lot of people that once they've started crocheting with Susan Bates needles, don't like the other kind of needles. And I can understand that. It's just I always find the Susan Bates needles, when I am working with those, because the shaft, and the head of the shaft is so short that my stitches are a lot tighter. And we all know I'm a loose crocheter. I have a reputation to keep, right? To keep that loose crochet look. I had a friend today that was telling me she had purchased a, I can't think of the name of the company now. She had purchased an Icelandic sweater. Her and her family had gone to Iceland last year. And she was real disappointed because she'd ordered an Icelandic sweater online. When she got it, it was not Icelandic, and it had been pre-shrunk. So it didn't fit her. And so she had made a comment about that, and she had met some people while she was in Iceland, and one of the ladies offered to, and told her, that is not an Icelandic sweater. I'd be more than willing to knit you a sweater, but I just need your measurements. So she'd asked me today to measure her, and I said, okay. So I had written down the list that I could remember that I would measure if I was doing sewing clothing for someone, which I have had my husband measure me at the time I was sewing for that. So I always keep those measurements in mind. And I'd asked her, I said, do do you know if you're wanting it to be like a raglan style sweater or something else? And she said, I don't know. I said, okay, don't worry about it. I'll take a measurement from your neck to your armpit for raglan, and then one from your shoulder to your armpit for the other type sweaters. And she goes, there's a difference? I said, oh yeah, there's a difference. Difference in the way it's made, difference in the way that it's knitted up. But if this woman is offering to do that for you, she already knows all that. So she'll be able to work with all these measurements. And she can pick and choose the one she needs. And she said, you really need all those measurements? I said, well, doesn't hurt. I said, here's the other thing. You've got to tell me how long you want your sweater. Do you like your sweaters longer? Do you want them shorter? And she said, why? I said, well, I'll give you an example why. I asked my sons for their measurements. They wanted me to make them a sweater, knit them a sweater. So I did. But I'd asked them, I need to know your sweater measurement from your shoulder down to where you would like your sweater to stop on your body, around your hip, right at your waist, however, whatever size you want it. Boys never to get back to me. I said, I also need the measurement from at least your shoulder to where you want your cuff on your sweater to be. No comment. It's just I wear this size, Mom. All right, fine. So, of course, many of you already know some of the problems that may arise with that. But I said, okay. And my one son said, Mom, I would just like my sweater to be, extra large. All right. So you go by the extra large measurements that are given on a pattern. They don't take into any of the accounts many of the measurements you might need for various reasons. They take a generally summarized or average. So I knitted that for both the sons. I knitted them sweater. And then my sons were giving me grief because their sweaters were like muffin top sweaters. I said, I told you there was a reason I needed those measurements. Could have used a yardstick. But no, you couldn't be bothered. I said, so it is what it is. If you don't want them, send them back. I'll rip them apart or give them away to someone who can use them. Never heard the end of it from that. So they still teased me about knitting them muffin tops. And I still tease them about, and there are reasons that your mother gives you instructions and has her entire life. And sometimes you ignore them and you get what happens. So, we just, it's a joke between us. And it doesn't bother me one bit whether they wear it or not. Whether it fits them or not. Because those are the consequences of their actions. Or inaction, I should say. And we were told today sometime we're supposed to get some rain. I'm kind of hoping because it'll help cool off things a little bit. But kind of sounds like it might be raining now. It is. So maybe I can get out there and do a little bit of that cutting down in a little bit. Unless just rains the rest of the evening. Hoping it doesn't do that. But we'll see if it does. See what happens in the meantime. And I know many times we can, when we're making garments for others or even for ourselves, we can do a little bit of fudging here and there. I think the easiest to fudge, though, is with crochet. Not so much with knitting. You can't always fudge it. Just doesn't always work out so well fudging it. I had joked that when I'd done the water video, I joked that this is such a pretty color. I would love to have a yarn that color. I have not seen any yarn that color, but I'm thinking that would be a gorgeous color. The closest that came to it was maybe Red Heart had a yarn one year that was pretty close to that color. I think it was a little darker, but such a pretty color. So what are some of the things that you have been seeing out there? Have you seen any new types of fashions? Things with knitting, crochet? I know I have been seeing a lot of ads from Yarnspiration on Facebook lately for patterns, those kind of things. And I don't know that I've seen anything that to me is like a new fad, but a lot of them are just what I would call traditional patterns. The only thing that I'm seeing that is different is the amigurumi. There's a lot that you can do with amigurumi. So I do see a lot more variation in newer things come out. Kind of like those books that you would get for the kids where they can mix and match different parts of animals to create new animals. I do see that with amigurumi. A lot of people, creating new things. Or like the Among Us. Who would have thought that was such a big thing for such a long time? And what is that big craze I've seen going around? Is it the Lulu Baba? No. La La Boo Boo babies. Kind of like little monsters, big teeth. Those are a big thing right now. And quite honestly, the price people are charging for them, it's crazy. Kind of like back when pet rocks were out there. I purchased pet rocks for $30. Could have made my own pet rock. Some of the things we do for a craze just because it's interesting. And I think part of the reason that I fell for that, I'll be honest, is because I don't know if you, when you were a kid, had an imaginary friend. But I had an imaginary friend that was a purple and green frog. So the pet rock kind of reminded me of that. So yeah, I bought into it. And I can remember my boys. Do you remember at Christmas time? Your kids always come up with the hottest thing that's out there because everybody has to have it. There was one year, and I don't even remember if it was, I don't know if it was the red, no, the yellow Power Ranger. I can't remember what it was. That, oh my gosh, my kids had to have. So I was going from store to store, from Walmart to Target, looking for that stupid toy. Toys R Us, you name it. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because we want our kids to be happy. But I think we do it sometimes because as a kid, sometimes we didn't get what we wanted. I'll tell you what I wanted for many years. I did not want to play with these fancy dolls, but I wanted one. You know, one of those in a ball gown. Real pretty 18-inch dolls that just kind of sit on your shelf. I wanted one, and I kept hoping my mother and dad would buy me one. They never bought me one. Did it hurt me any? No. But I will tell you, as an adult, once my kids were gone and I was on my own, did I purchase a doll? Fancy dancy dressed doll? You bet I did. So yeah, I know those are some of the crazy things that I've done in the past, so you done any crazy things like that? Well, folks, I think I have yammered on long enough, so I am going to let you go. In the meantime, if you're anywhere where it is hot, I hope that you are drinking your fluids, staying hydrated and staying cool. And if not, I hope that you can get to a cooling center. Everybody have a great week. I will see you again Friday for sure. I don't know about any other day, but yeah, see you then. Bye.